Good morning. I'm Dr. Steve Stites, Chief Medical Officer here at the University of Kansas Health System. Welcome back to Open Mics with Dr. Stites. You don't need a doctor to tell you that exercise and physical activity will improve your health. Movement can be medicine. I can spend this whole program simply listing the known benefits to your muscles, your bones, your lungs, your heart, your energy, your level of energy, your mood, and so on and so on. And in fact, I can tell you how many times my wife would kick me out of the house until I went out to work out so I would be a better person. But there are still plenty of people who neglect physical activity until a health problem motivates them to get moving. Better, do it prior to that. Today, I want to help empower everyone who knows they should be exercising, but simply isn't for X, Y, or Z reason. We'll explain why losing weight isn't really, or even always, but really isn't the focus. We'll discuss how to set goals, keep yourself motivated. We'll even show you how to do some straightforward beginner-level exercises that you could do right now. But first, we're going to do morning rounds. As much fun as we're going to have with exercise, this one is a hard one. A new law in the state of Florida allows surgeons to perform C-section deliveries outside of hospitals. In a project backed by private equity, there are some concerns. And medical experts are sounding the alarm and warning of the health risks in a recent article in the New York Times. We're going to talk with Dr. Mark Parrish, a maternal fetal medicine specialist and the health system's director of maternal fetal medicine. That's the type of medicine that takes care of women when they are really sick with their pregnancies. You might have heard him reacting to this news on KMBZ radio yesterday afternoon. Dr. Parrish, most C-sections happen without a problem. But if a complication does occur, why is it important to have hospital-level resources at the ready? And would you ever feel safe in some place that's just doing C-sections outside of a hospital?
It would give me great concern, especially if I was the one doing them. You know, what's nice about being in the hospital is these C-sections are not just a benign procedure that these patients are going through and that the physicians are performing. They're fraught with lots of complications, significant risk for injury to surrounding organs, and most importantly, risk for hemorrhage or excessive blood loss. And my concern with having these performed at these off-site locations that don't have at the ready the blood that you would need, the extra specialties that you would need in the event that you got into an injury with external organs. You don't have those, and you're even 15 minutes from a place that does have those resources. That's life-threatening for those patients.
You know, I completely agree. My wife is an OBGYN, and we were talking about this last night. She's like, you've got to be kidding me. Yeah. So this push to open what Florida is calling advanced birthing centers, okay, that's a false title, was pitched as a way to expand access to maternity care. Now that's an important goal, to get access. But do you think allowing C-sections outside hospitals expands access somehow? How does that's not even true.
No, absolutely not. Because the access issue, and we can use the examples just right around us in our own state of Kansas and right next door in Missouri, it's not that we don't have facilities. You can't just place one of these advanced birthing centers wherever you want. You have to staff them with specialists that do the procedures. And the access issue is going to be that'll be the issue. You're not going to have OBGYNs just filling these spots wherever they plant those. And so the access issue is still the lack of providers that can provide those resources at those locations.
Well, let's be honest, the rate of reimbursement for OB has fallen so dramatically in decades, as it has in primary care and other areas, that hospitals are starting to get out of the business because they can't afford to keep it open.
Yes.
That's a problem in the rate of reimbursement.
Yes.
It's not suggesting that private equity-backed advanced birthing centers, again, that's a false title.
It is false.
Come in, decide they can try to make money at this and put women and babies at risk. Agreed. Why would a doctor allow and even lobby for something that is ultimately less safe for their patients, do you think?
You know, I think it's money.
Yeah, it is too.
I think it's money because, as you said, this was the reason this law even exists in Florida is because of the lobbying that occurred by this private equity group or the lobbyists that the private equity group hired to push these things through. So this was not
anything for money, I think. And you know, there's some pretty good documentation that's been published within the last year demonstrating much worse outcomes in healthcare backed by private equity than in either for-profit or not-for-profit. And I think this is going to be something that's going to probably take legislative action in the long run, because it is dangerous to babies. It's dangerous to women.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Parrish. I appreciate your being here.
Yes.
We'll work on this one together.
Of course.
All right. Joining me today in the studio is Dr. Renee Rogers, a senior scientist with the KU School of Medicine's Division of Physical Activity and Weight Management. She's a physical activity expert and a fellow of the American College of Sports Medicine. I'm really looking forward to hearing a little bit about your work. In a few moments, we're also going to visit with Kelsey Engett, a personal trainer and corrective exercise supervisor. Okay, I need a lot of that kind of help at the Health System Sports and Performance Center. Hi, Kelsey. How are you? She'll lead us in a couple of exercises that anyone can do, and that corrective part, that's important for me. And later we'll meet Dr. Ashley Rhodes, a health psychologist who often works with patients before and after weight loss surgeries. We're going to just talk about how to break down some of those mental barriers to do exercise. But first, we should establish two terms. There is physical activity, which is pretty much movement of any part of your body at any time of the day. And then there's exercise, which is a physical activity with a purpose, specifically to improve fitness. And here's my full disclosure. I'm an exercise geek. I really love to do it. I love the endorphin thing. It makes me feel better. I worked out this morning. I don't have a tie on because I'm still sweating because of the humidity.
I love it.
I'm still sweating, so I can't even. So I'm one of those kind of goofballs that's been doing this for years. So just full disclosure, so everybody knows, I'm a fan. Dr. Rogers, now, is a physical activity we get throughout our daily lives good enough to improve our health? Or do people need to be more intentional about exercise?
I love that you use the word intentional, because intentional is something that's important, but also we have to remember, you described yourself as being that person, that exercise. I have people say to me all the time, you're that exercise person, right?
Yeah, I'm a goofball.
And that's okay, and that's a wonderful, wonderful thing, but everyone's different. So that's, I think, the biggest piece of looking at this is physical activity for some people at a certain health status, just getting up and moving more. You said it earlier, movement can be medicine in your introduction.
Movement is
It's such a wonderful thing, and being even intentional about getting up and moving more throughout your day can be really beneficial for certain people, and for other people, it's really about exercising in a structured way. We always want to ramp up. We always want to think about it that way, so that you're going from starting somewhere and moving to something more intentional, which might be higher intensity, what we like to call overload. So always trying to do a little bit more incrementally. I think the problem that we have, though, is so many people hear that word exercise and they think it's sweat, no pain, no gain. They have negative thoughts about it, or they think sport and athletic performance, when the reality is that word moving is actually really, really important. So there's benefits to all of it. We have really nice research that's starting to come out that's showing us you can get benefits at the low end, you can get benefits at the high end. The more intentional we can be in a way that works for us is probably our best bet.
Yeah, I think that I love that there are benefits at every end of it. And
Yeah.
I think as we get older, it becomes incredibly important. I know that my joints and my back and my hips are so stiff. I do a little bar class, I do a spinning class, I do
fabulous.
a weight training class. I'm like a whole new person after that.
Yeah.
It's really remarkable to me what a difference it can make.
Yeah. No, and I love you're saying that. So you're really talking about modality and the value you can get from different types of exercise. So like you talked about bar. Bar is great for posture and strength and balance.
That's great.
Stability is so important throughout our whole life. I think sometimes we talk about balance as we get older, but the reality is it's good for everyone at every point in their lifetime. You know, muscle health is just critically important, but our cardiovascular fitness, walking, we get so many benefits from getting out and walking and just pushing ourselves a little bit more. You know, I always like to tell people, it's like you're walking, you know the bus is coming, and if you could just go a little bit faster because you know it's going to be here in a minute and you kind of speed it up, you can get some wonderful cardiovascular benefits. So all the different modalities, the more you can do, the better, but there are so many different things that you can do. Finding that thing that you enjoy, I think, really at the end of the day is going to be what pulls you in, so that people find the love like you do.
It is, and it's love too. 'Cause, you know, I get up and work out. It's funny. We talk about bar class, and it's kind of weird. We're talking about bar class, I guess, but you know, oh, that's for the dancers doing stuff like that. What I found as I got older is that's been the best thing in the world for my hip and my back mobility.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm like, why don't people talk about this? This is crazy good here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like
I was a dancer,
Pilates,
so I have that deep love for it, and Pilates as well too.
Oh man, those are awesome.
It's that foundation, right? The core, getting the core in the back and lengthening and strong, and those can be really, really powerful things. And I think it makes us feel better when we stand up taller and we hold ourselves better and we function throughout our day without the fatigue.
And I think exercise has never been more available to us. It's on every corner, but also the online classes, you don't need anything but your own weight to exercise.
Yeah.
It's remarkable how much you can get done just like with exercises on your floor.
Yeah, it's my favorite thing, honestly, is the idea that it is accessible. And that's why a lot of times when I do talk to people that are just getting started, sometimes I don't use that exercise word. I really talk about how you can use your own body weight, how you can move more. I love the movement word. I'm so glad you said that earlier, because you can do it from home. I love exercising from home. In fact, I'm not a huge gym person, and people always look at me and go, "Are you crazy? How can you not be a gym person? You know, you're an exercise physiologist." But at the end of the day, I recognize that while biologically exercise is really, really good for you, we also have to think about the human and the behavior and how you're comfortable. And the point you made, such a wonderful one, that you can do it from your home now. We have so many great resources. If you love the gym atmosphere, that's great too. If you love being around other people in group classes, that's also an option. It's all here. You got lots of options.
Now, a lot of people want to lose weight, and they're hoping with exercise that makes a difference. That's more about diet, I think, than exercise. But exercise and movement isn't just about weight loss. Now, you've told me before that focusing on muscle health may be really, really important in the long term. Talk to us about muscle health.
Absolutely. And it's one of those things as we age that we start to see that there's a decrease in muscular strength. We've known this for a long time, and actually, this graphic's really great. It shows us that at 40, we start to see a decline in strength. And a lot of people will say, oh, we're losing muscle mass. Likely the case, very much could be happening. It's a little bit, that data is a little interesting, but we do know that strength itself, so our ability, to lift and push and function, right, really starts to decline. And as we get to 50, 60, it starts to decline even more. But what we do know is that with exercise, you can keep that suppression so that you're not declining down to having mobility disability issues. So by moving your body more throughout the lifetime, even as a young adult, it's critically important. So I think sometimes we lose sight as kids in our 20s and our 30s, we lose sight of that important behavior. But really, we want to get ahead of that game, so we're constantly keeping our strength at a level that we function at our best every day.
Yeah. So as we age and we lose muscle, we're also losing strength and power. Talk to us about how you define power as it relates to our daily activities.
Yeah. Everybody, I think when we think about resistance training, we talk about strength, right? Everybody's like, how strong can I be? How big can my muscles be? But when we talk about power, it's more about function. Are you really functioning at your very best level? And what's interesting is as we get older, power actually takes the biggest hit. And that's the idea of our strength times our speed. So if you put it in perspective, it's things like getting out of a chair, climbing the steps, being able to cross the street before that crosswalk sign turns off, and it's time to go. All those things that make our quality of life their best. It's really getting moving and being able to feel good throughout our whole day.
It's really remarkable how important that is, that bit about feeling good throughout your whole day, because it is cool. Now, some people like cardio, some people like jogging, some people like bogging. Well, maybe they like bogging too.
Yeah.
But jogging, and others prefer resistance training and lifting weights. How is it important to do one or the other or this or that or a mixture of all the above?
Yeah, you gave us a great example of doing all these things and how you're feeling better.
I do.
Yeah, and for some people, I know that sounds really daunting, and I wanna be clear and say that something is always better than nothing. And I like to use the term muscle health when I talk to folks, not specifically what's happening with one part of the body, especially as you're getting started. I think as you're getting started, getting out and moving more, being intentional, like we talked about, of moving as much as you can throughout the day, that's great. But when you're really trying to specifically train for something, so for example, if you're a football player, you're going to train for your position. You're going to do specifically the type of exercise that's going to make you better at what you need to do. For some of our chronic conditions, we focus on certain forms of physical activity. We have a corrective exercise specialist that if you need parts of your body corrected for certain things, they're going to help you specifically with that. So there's this thing called specificity. But what we do know is that with resistance, with aerobic, with all those things, if you're really moving more, you're going to see benefits to your muscle health overall.
All right, let's talk about that corrective part, because Lord knows trainers have tried to correct my movements for a long time. Let's go out to personal trainer Kelsey Engett at the Sports and Performance Center. Good morning, Kelsey.
Good morning.
Hey, what have you got to show us this morning?
How are you
I'm
guys?
Excited. Well, I'm going to have to come out and let you correct my exercise habits, but talk to us a little bit about what you're going to tell clients and how you make sure they do things right and good exercises to start.
Yeah, for sure. So this morning we're just going to do 3 moves. With anybody first starting an exercise program, the 3 main focuses that I have are functional strength, balance or core, and mobility. So I'm going to do 1 exercise per group there just to give a quick demonstration. So the first one we're going to do, you can do from a chair, you can do from your couch, go from anywhere. So what we're going to do is we're going to cross our hands across our chest. You're going to lean all the way back in your chair. You're going to sit up, stand up, and then repeat. So by doing this, again, functional exercise, just like you guys were saying, something that decreases with age and just with people with inactivity is just the ability to do normal daily tasks, like getting up without your hands, using your hands to push off the chair. So doing something like that will help keep your legs strong, help keep that functional mobility and strength to go through your day. The next one that we're going to do is going to be more about balance and core. So if you're doing this from home, you can use a water bottle, you can use a dumbbell if you have one, but we're going to balance, and you're going to pass this side to side, keeping your core strong, working on balance, core strength. And then the third one that we're going to do is going to be about mobility. So what I'm going to have everybody do is sit back down in the chair. First, you're going to just lean back, pull your knee into your chest as far as you can to get that stretch in the hip. And then you're going to cross that leg over, and then we're going to stretch the hip this way. So pressing down just lightly at your knee. If that doesn't give you enough of a stretch, you can lean forward into that. This is a great low back hip stretch. So especially if you sit a lot for your job in the day, this is something you can do right from your chair in the middle of your work day to help relieve tension across your back, and actually it will just kind of give you a little boost of energy. So.
Kelsey, I love this. And when you said get up, stand up, all I could think of was the reggae song, get up, stand up, and it's perfect. So now, what do your clients tell you when they struggle with lack of motivation or just struggle to get started? What kind of things do you hear?
A lot of times it's just busy schedules, not wanting to get out and go to the gym. A lot of people have intentions to do it, and then their day goes by. So, you know, just like I tell all my clients, like, you have to put it in your schedule, put it in your calendar. I even put exercise in my calendar, and I live in a gym. But I look at my calendar on Sunday, I look through my week, and I say, okay, where can I put in my exercise? So being intentional in doing that movement and not just saying, I'm going to work out tomorrow, because a lot of times that won't happen when you don't actually put it into plan. And the other thing I tell people is, just like I heard earlier, something is better than nothing. So even if you say to yourself, I'm going to do 10 minutes of sit up, stand up today, and that's going to be my exercise for today, that's better than not doing anything. That's a good place to start. And then telling yourself, I'm going to do that 3 times a week, or whatever is going to work for you and for your goals. So just not, some people get intimidated by the big picture of it, like, oh, I got to go to the gym, I got to spend an hour there, I got to do all of these things. And if you just start small with your goals and hit those goals and then build from there, it's going to lead to much better success and long-term habit of exercising.
You know, I love it. I'll tell you what, as you know, as you've heard me say before, what a believer I am in this. Once people get started, do you find that they can sustain it? That the hard part is just getting started, or is it in this trying to sustain it for a long time?
For most people, if you can stick to it long enough to start to feel the endorphins and to get to the place where you're at, then it's the opposite. People are like, I don't feel right. I had a busy week. I didn't work out this week, and it didn't feel good. So usually the first, I'm going to say month or so, like, you kind of are going to have to push yourself to do it. You're going to have to say, okay, I don't want to do this. But once you get in that consistent pattern, usually the endorphins kick in, your body starts feeling better, your energy starts feeling better, and then that starts to motivate you to continue to do it.
Yeah, I think that's really true. And, you know, we've heard Jeff Burns on this program, a neurologist, the head of the Alzheimer's program, and one of the heads, and he talked about how much better your mental function is and how important exercise is to help avoid dementia. I mean, as you think about man theologically, or mankind, or humankind, we never really sat around. As you sat around, you got eaten. So that movement thing really is intentional and important for us, and it keeps us going. All right, so we're here to answer your questions. Send them using the links on your screen, YouTube, Facebook, or email the Medical News Network. I want to bring in psychologist Dr. Ashley Rhodes. Now, Dr. Rhodes, I imagine there are lots of people out there who think they want to exercise more, but they just struggle to get started. Any tips on how to turn desire into habit?
Absolutely. I talk to a lot of people about, their personal motivations, and maybe I love to talk here today about the functionality. So for some people, it might be, I want to be able to keep up with my kids or grandkids a little bit more. And so if we are making sure that the way that we're measuring, so we're going to talk about, I think, SMART goals here in a moment too, if the way that we're measuring progress is going to be directly related to some of those personal whys or motivations, that can go a long way. And also sometimes for folks, it's better to decrease focus on motivation, just like what you were talking about earlier, and say, can we just get into the habit? Can we be focused more on the activity, knowing that over time that does get easier?
All right, so when someone sets a goal for themselves, there's a widely used acronym, SMART, which, if I'm smart enough, spells SMART goals. So what makes a SMART goal the best goal?
Absolutely. So this is widely talked about in a variety of goal setting arenas. And so when we're looking at this, we're talking about the S being either simple or specific. You'll see either of those used. The M is measurable, A, achievable, R is like relevant or realistic, and T, timely or time-based. So if you can go through these criteria as you're setting a goal, it is going to make it much more likely that we can kind of bridge that gap between intention and behavior.
So let's say somebody does start a goal and gets started, but ultimately doesn't meet that goal. Maybe they ignore their own workout plans. How do we help people with things like that?
A lot of people can relate to this idea that they have such great intentions. They really want to have the benefits of this activity. And also, as we were talking about earlier, have some real barriers. Life gets in the way. One thing that I talk to folks about is sometimes even having a plan A through C to fall back on. Plan A is kind of where we tend to set goals. It's not always the most realistic. It's kind of the world that we think we live in, as if we have more control over things than we actually do. Still good to have in case you're in that ideal scenario. Plan B is more of a realistic, what is taking into account the things you do and do not have control over. And Plan C is sort of that all else fails. How can I still connect with this goal? How can I still be connecting, for example, with some kind of movement, even if it's not my plan for exercise? The tricky part here is viewing each of those as equally successful and being able to kind of shift between them so that you're still staying on track to some extent.
And then I think the people around you have to allow you to walk into the studio at the last minute still sweating, recognizing you're probably going to have to change your shirt now because you were still sweating from your workout and you didn't put on a tie because you didn't want that to get all sweaty. And then everybody's got to be supportive of my ability to, after this program, go find a different shirt because I'm still sweating while I sit here. Okay, we know many of you have questions. Let's head to Studio B with Alexis. All right, Alexis, you're up.
Good morning.
And by the way, Alexis, I think you're a workout person too.
I like yoga and I like walking. I do a lot of walking.
Yeah.
Lifting, I'm trying to get a little bit into lifting light weights.
I think you got Kelsey right there for you. Let's do it.
I should hook up with Kelsey. We have a good question from Jill, and I've actually wondered this. Can anyone tell us, is it better to exercise in the morning or in the evening?
So, this has actually been a pretty hot topic lately in terms of the effects. Actually, I was just looking at some new data on it. And the answer is we can talk about it biologically and we can also talk about it behaviorally. At the end of the day, I think that the time of day that you exercise, it really needs to work for you if it's what's going to work for you and you're going to do it. For me, a lot of times it's first thing in the morning because I have concerns about my day getting in the way. Again, we go back to intentions to action, right? That's a strategy for me. However, there's some interesting data now that's coming out that's showing us that if you're someone that needs, type 2 diabetic, or you're concerned about glucose levels or your blood sugar levels, maybe evening exercise is better.
Oh, interesting.
We know for weight loss, there's been some new data that comes out that shows that people that exercise in the morning may see better effects or support of their weight loss behaviors during that time. Again, a lot of these are newer studies coming out. I think we need better trials, but at the end of the day, I think behavior trumps it, right? If you don't do it, you don't get the biological benefits. So at the end of the day, best time of day for you that you're going to do it consistently is probably the way to go.
Okay, that's good, because there's so many people who can't wake up early and get it out of the way and enjoy
Agreed.
walking in the evening. I've always wondered that. I'm one of those people. Bailey has a question. Bailey wants to know, what exercise advice do you have for people who have had gastric bypass or any other bariatric surgery?
I would just say start slow, but don't not do it. You just have to continue to do it.
Yeah.
That should not limit you, really.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think that, if you, prior to going into surgery, if you have the opportunity to begin an exercise program, I think that's always a great thing. We've seen, improved outcomes and just function again post-surgical from it. But also, we're all different. We're all in different places. I would definitely speak to someone. But I do think that post-surgery, once you are cleared, once it's appropriate for you to begin, and that's a discussion between you and your surgeon and your follow-up care, which is critically important. Ramping up your physical activity slowly, I think, is a really good strategy, not trying to jump in too quickly. And again, if it's anything, getting out there and walking and getting those muscles stimulated is a great first way to go.
And to follow up on that, Marcia wants to know, this is interesting, what kind of movement approach do you recommend if you're someone with neuropathy or someone who has foot issues but wants to maintain or increase or support their fitness?
This is such a wonderful, wonderful question, and I'm glad you're thinking about fitness and still moving your body. We do see a lot of folks that have neuropathies kind of say, nope, it's not for me. And I think that's the way that exercise is framed a lot, right? We think about it, but Kelsey showed us a couple wonderful exercises where you're really starting from a chair or seated in a chair. There's lots and lots of exercises that you can do. Still stimulating the muscles of the upper body is really important, and the mobility aspect that Kelsey talked about is really, really great. We also do know that still working on your balance is really important. So anytime that you have neuropathies, you want to make sure you're supported. So if you are doing standing exercise, be near a chair, a wall for support, check your feet regularly. But seated stuff is still working those muscles. Don't be afraid of it.
Do you have any recommendations? My mom wants to know this one. She has arthritis in her feet, and she has a couple, well, both her knees are pretty rough. How does she get that cardio in?
Yeah, that's a great question. A lot of times we will recommend water exercise or non-weight bearing exercise because it does help to take some of that impact off of the joints. Again, getting back to seated exercise, I've led lots of, in my time over the years, workouts with older adults, seated in a chair, moving your body. And you can be young, you can be old. We always say it's for that. But I think for anyone that has any mobility, disability, arthritis types of issues, take the impact off. There are certain resistance training machines and cardio machines that help to take some of that impact off as well.
Jean has a question for Kelsey. Jean wants to know, what about the number of reps for those exercises? I usually do 3 sets of 15 reps for particular exercises. And then how long should we be planking?
I love planks. No, I don't.
Nobody does.
They're good. They're good.
But you got to do it.
Yes. So again, it kind of depends on where you're starting. I would say 2 to 3 sets of anywhere from 10 to 20 reps. So you want to make sure that you feel challenged. You want to do enough sets and reps that you feel yourself working. But that's going to be a little bit different for everybody, and kind of depending on where you start. So 2 to 3 sets of 10 to 20 reps. If you're getting to where 20 reps is easy, that's when you want to add more resistance than just body weight, or increase the size of like your water bottle that you're using, move up to a 5-pound dumbbell or something. The same really honestly goes for a plank. Planks are really difficult for people if you're starting out with not very much core strength. And a lot of times if you're trying to hold a plank for a minute and you're not prepared for that, instead you're going to use your back muscles, you're going to probably hurt in the wrong places. So, same kind of thing. Start with a 20-second plank, see how that feels. If that's easy, you can work your way up to a 5-minute plank. I know people that can do 5-minute planks. It kind of just depends on where you're at, what your goals are. But like everything, start slow and then progress as your body's ready.
And Kelsey, Jeremy has a question for you. Jeremy wants to know if you can recommend a length or a frequency of exercise that's the sweet spot? What do you tell your clients?
So again, like with strength training, when you're trying to build strength, you're going to need to go 2 to 3 times a week to start out with. Again, just 1 time a week. Something is better than nothing. So if you start with once, that's better than nothing. But consistency is key. So I'd say 2 to 3 times a week. And again, you can be very effective. I can do a pretty effective workout in 20 minutes if I'm only given a small amount of time. So it kind of depends on the program that you're working with. You do typically want to work all of the muscles in your body just to get a well-balanced program. So that can be done in a lot of different ways, where you're doing your total body exercises 3 times a week, you're hitting every muscle group, or it can be done where you're hitting muscle groups, you know, upper body one day, lower body one day, core and mobility on a third day. So there's just a lot of different ways, and it kind of, each person's goals are what help determine how you should be doing that.
We have a question about the research part of this. So Stu wants to know, we've all heard about step trackers. So many people have them. I mean, I have an app where I track my steps. Is there research that backs up that people with step trackers actually do exercise more?
Yeah, so I think it depends on the human. We're starting to learn that more and more, and the motivation of the person. If you're the kind of person that, looking down at that number and you go, oh, I'm almost there, I just need to get up, and it prompts you to be more intentional, I think we will see that outcome. You'll start moving more. Then there's other people that look down and go, it can be deflecting or it can be deflating for other people. So I think it depends on the person. I do know that we've moved from the pedometer, the traditional step counter, to more of a smartwatch, and smartwatches are starting to tell us more information about higher levels of moderate to vigorous physical activity versus just steps and how you get those steps and how it all comes together. So I think it really depends. I was actually a part of a research study with one of my colleagues, John Jakisik, before we came to the University of Kansas Medical Center, where we actually showed that when you added an activity tracker for weight loss specifically, it did not help people more. So we were surprised by that. But it really depends on your outcome, and I think you need to take a look at what motivates you. If you like this and it helps you, by all means.
And we have one more question from Vera. Vera has a question about warming up and cooling off. First of all, she wants to know, how important is it to warm up and cool off? And secondly, she asks, is there any concern on how long it takes to stop sweating?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I think that, Kelsey, you can, if you want to chime in, but I'll say it from the standpoint of always make sure your body is ready for what you want to do. And it depends on the type of movement that you're doing. If you're going for a structured exercise session, you really need to make sure that your body's prepared to do the work that's ahead of you. And when you're done, you want to slowly bring it down. So the last portion of your workout should be geared towards recovery. Recovery is such an important thing. We're learning more and more about it. However, if you're sitting at your desk and it's time to get up and take a movement break or do one of the wonderful mobility stretches that Kelsey showed us, get up, do it. Taking those small activity breaks, you don't need to gear in time for warming up and cooling down. Those are just like beneficial boosts throughout your day. You can go for it at that moment.
Ashley, so a lot of people are intimidated to go to a gym because they look around and they see all those people who look kind of buff and cool, and they're there. How do we get people to be less intimidated? What do we say to folks that it's okay to start someplace?
I hear this often, and something I encourage people to think about is once you're in that space, right, are people, what is your experience there? Most of the time people find that most people are focused on themselves once they get there. So even just having that gradual exposure to those settings can be really helpful to kind of prove to yourself, kind of to your brain and your body, that you can handle those situations. There is a lot of anxiety there. So that exposure framework can be helpful. But also what we were talking about earlier, the gym is going to be a great fit for a lot of people and not for others. So just where you can find that movement and connection with activity, and being open-minded about that can also be very helpful.
I think we have to give ourselves permission to fail at this at the beginning. Absolutely. And I tell my patients this all the time. It's not about where you start. It's about where you finish. And give yourself permission to fail. Give yourself permission to feel a little intimidated. That's okay. Because especially if you go to a gym, you're going to feel that way at the beginning. And then what you have to do is kind of work with yourself and realize you're still a champion because you're trying. and the more you try, that's when you're going to start really feeling better, I think. And how's that for amateur psychology, Ashley? Does that hit a mark?
Perfect on the amateur psychology front. Doing great.
All right. Well, this has been a great program, and I've loved our discussion today. I want to go around and kind of ask people for their final thoughts, but before we do, I have one more question. If I hit 10,000 steps because I walk around a lot at work, is that as good as doing 30 minutes on my exercise bike?
Well, let's hit one thing first. 10,000 steps is actually not really well researched.
It's just made up.
It's kind of just made up, right?
Yeah, urban lore.
Yeah, and some really great work has come out recently that said that 8,000 steps you can get a benefit from, a health benefit. So again, it goes back to your goals, right?
Yeah.
So by doing that 30-minute structured bout of a specific exercise, you're going to get those specific muscle health benefits, whether it's cardiovascular, whether it's muscle strength, all the things that we've been talking about throughout the whole program. But by moving your body throughout the day, you are still going to have some benefit. It's going to be a little different. So again, if you can make more of those steps a little higher in intensity, that would even be better, right? So not only are you getting steps, but being intentional, back to that great word, and saying, you know, from here, and I'm going to walk to lunch today, I'm just going to go a little faster. I'm just going to push a little harder. You're likely going to see more benefits whenever you can try to give yourself that little bit of a challenge.
All right, I love it. Okay, Kelsey, final thoughts today.
I guess my final thought would be that I have never met anybody that started an exercise program and regretted it. So just remember that you can start no matter where you're starting. Start small and build up, but just get started.
Where you start's not where you finish. Dr. Rhodes.
Tag teaming off of all of this, I'd say not only the getting started is so helpful, but know that no one does this perfectly. So knowing that there are going to be things that get in the way at different times, and the ability to redirect and kind of get back on track is equally helpful. And reiterating that idea of not setting some arbitrary goal like that 10,000 steps that, as we acknowledge, is not very well researched, but saying, what's my personal baseline? How can I gradually improve from there? And making sure that you're tracking with things that are relevant to you and connecting with the things that matter most to you.
All right, I love it. Dr. Rogers.
You said at the beginning, movement's medicine. So if exercise is something that kind of makes your skin crawl hearing the word, then let that go. You know, focus more on the physical activity, focus more on the movement, empower yourself, and start to tune into how it makes you feel. And then hopefully that's going to launch you to maybe dive into exercising even more.
You know, I keep coming back to that thought. You have to start someplace.
Absolutely.
The goal isn't to be perfect when you start. The goal is to get started so that you can feel better. I like to say, live long and prosper. We know those things that keep us healthy, right? Good, healthy relationships, good food, movement, doing the things we really enjoy, getting the right amount of sleep. Those are the things that most are going to help us live long and prosper. But exercise and movement and intentionality around that is an important part of that puzzle. Thanks again to all of our guests and to all of our audience. Remember, faith, hope, science, and live long and prosper. Let's move. Let's go.
Coming up Friday on the Morning Medical Update, cancer patients deserve an advocate, an ally, someone who knows what they need and even what they don't. I'm Jessica Lovell on the next Morning Medical Update, shining a light on nurse navigators. Learn how compassion helps guide patients through a nerve-wracking time. Friday at 8.
Subscribe to our Morning Medical Update and Open Mics with Dr. Stites podcasts. Now, everywhere podcasts are available.